Hi, I'm Dave Morris with Conservation Tips. You know, one of the most common concerns that homeowners express to me is the uneven heating and cooling in their home. You know, there's that bedroom upstairs that's always hot in the summer and it's always freezing cold in the winter, or the lower level where it's always freezing cold. Well, in this segment of Conservation Tips, we hope to offer you some strategies how you can make your house more efficient and make you more successful in your air balancing act. Now, a good place to start in your air balancing investigation is at the heating and cooling system itself. Now, this one's in a basement, which is an ideal situation for it. Now, if you have a furnace air conditioner in the attic or in a crawl space, it's going to make your air balancing a little bit harder. But let's take a look at the components now. In order to air balance properly, you want to get rid of the blockages. And if you've been watching tips for a number of years, you know how you should be keeping your filter clean. So make sure you got a clean filter in here, and if it sticks open to the area around it, you want to cover that with some tape. This is some foil tape. It's very good. You want to cover this because we don't want any air to come in from this area here. It's especially bad if you're in the crawl space or up in the attic where you don't want that hot or cold air going in the system. Then the next piece of the puzzle is in the furnace per se. There's a squirrel cage fan down in this area, which moves the air through the filter up through the furnace. If it's an older furnace, we're talking 20 years old, you may have a lot of dust build up on that fan. You might want to have a professional come and clean that if you can feel those a lot of grip. The fan will move slower and not deliver the air that it's designed to. Now, if you have central air conditioning, you have an apparatus up here that looks like the radiator in your car, except that it's about this thick and there's lots of little fins. And if this hasn't been kept clean over the years, then it can get plugged up and also create a blockage there. That's a lot harder to get to. I don't think you can clean it yourself, so you might want to call a professional to help you with that. Now, the next step after you get the furnace good and clean, you know, the air flowing through it pretty well, is get the fan going and see if you can feel any air coming out the ductwork right above the furnace. Lots of times it will come spilling out here where the air conditioner drain is, and sides and what have you, and you can either use like silicone caulk, or you might try duct tape to take care of it. Now, this is the standard duct tape that you think is duct tape, but it's not. It doesn't last very long. You need to find yourself some aluminized tape like this with stick on the back side. It'll last you a long time. Now, once we've got all these leaks around here taken care of, then we want to take a look at the rest of the Supplier System and its ductwork and make sure there's no leaks up there. Now, as the air comes up out of the furnace, it goes into a large ductwork, which is called a plenum. Off that plenum, there are individual runs, duct runs like this, that go to individual rooms. Or coal is cut up here and the air enters the room from this side. Now, these are fairly well manufactured. They're fairly tight, but you want to check and make sure there's not any droops or any leakage spots here too, because we don't want that air to spill out down here. We want to go upstairs. So this is what your supply vent looks like upstairs. And generally, they can be on the outside of your wall. They can be on the interior wall. And most times they have louvers, so you can control the airflow somewhat. And in this particular instance, we've got a nice curtain that's covering it up. We're heating and cooling the wall behind it, so make sure these are open and obstructed too. Now, the return vent doesn't have any louvers, and it's a little easier to spy. Now, not only does your heating system supply air to the room, but we want to be able to return it back to the furnace, and that's done through the return vent system. Normally, they can be located high on the wall, they can be located low on the wall, they can be located right below the furnace, depending on what kind of house you have. To determine what kind of airflow you have, you kind of feel and see you got your air coming in there. But another way of doing it is take a piece of typing paper like this, and if it holds on there like that, now the furnace fan's on right now, so we're pulling air through the system. This normally suggests you get pretty good airflow through a vent like this. If the paper doesn't hold, well, you can try something like a tissue paper. Now, the reason you're doing this is that you want to go from room to room and see which is pulling harder and which is pulling less, and that might help you explain why those rooms are getting too hot or too cold. Now, the return air that we're pulling from the rooms upstairs is coming through this return plenum, as you see right here, which enters into the furnace this way before the filter. And we don't have the same kind of setup as we do with the supply system, where we don't have individual ducts to the rooms. We're pulling in air from the wall cavities. We're using floor joists as the air cavities, and all sorts of possibilities for leakage occurs when you put metal against lumber. So check your return system out as best you can, and again, you can do some repairs with that foil tape, which I'll show you how to do right now. Now, this is the kind of cold air return leak that I find common in most homes that I run into. We have our joist here, using it as an air channel, but look here, we have a pucker, and air is going to be pulled in from this area here, where we don't want this basement air into your home. We want to keep it all contained. So this is a good spot to go ahead and add some of this aluminum foil tape. You can See how easy it is to apply and get it up there. It's also a little pucker right here. You want to go ahead and take some tape over that. We want to seal this up so we're not pulling in the air from the basement. Now in this segment of tips, we've shown you how to make sure that your heating and cooling systems are working more effectively, how we can stop some leakages in the supply and the return air. And depending on your architecture, this may have a definite effect on the air balancing we talked about earlier and on your heating and cooling cost. Your architecture, though, might defy your ability to take care of this yourself, so you might want to call a heating and cooling company just to be sure. Now, this is Dave Mars with Conservation Tips with Columbia Water and Light, where we want you to save money, save energy, and save the environment. We'll see you next time.